Hi, I'm Rob Pritchard and I'm the sports editor at Manx Radio. The Isle of Man men's national football team is set to take its first step in its long-term ambitions for success in the coming years. At the time of this recording, the squad is set to take part in its first home match since 2019, when they face Halewood Apollo at the Bowl in Douglas on Saturday, the 2nd of May, kicking off at 5 p.m. that evening. This contest marks the beginning of what's being dubbed as the Road to Gold campaign, a 3-year project to build the Manx men's national side up to the Isle of Man hosting the International Island Games in 2029. The team's manager, Chris Bass Jr., led the side to bronze at the last International Island Games in Orkney last summer. Ahead of their friendly against Halewood Apollo, I've been speaking with Chris about his long-term vision for the team and also the prospect of playing in front of a home crowd for the first time in the best part of 7 years.
Lovely, it'll be really nice, it'll be a really good occasion. I'm hoping that we can sort of drum up a decent enough crowd to come and watch the Isle of Man national team. It's been far too long for the national team to be playing on the island. That should never have happened. 7 years. I know we've had friendlies here and there, but something like that should never happen. The Isle of Man national team, especially the men's national team, should be at the forefront of Manx football, really. And I think this is an occasion that people will want to come and get behind and start building this national team up to what it was before. So I'm looking forward to Saturday, really looking forward to it. The opponents are a team we played against last year, so we'll see. I'm sure they'll be different, a game with different personnel, but just to bring the Isle of Man national team back to the Isle of Man, and especially playing on the Bowl on a Saturday evening, the weather looks like it's going to be good. So I'm hoping we can get some good support down to come and see the lads play.
And of course, a few weeks ago, you announced your training squad going into this. That's now been whittled down to the players that you will have for this weekend. Before we get to the squad for this weekend, generally, how much chance have you had to work with the players since that training squad was announced, and how have things been over the last few weeks with them?
Yeah, the initial squad, the training squad, was to have 36 players. The idea was to have a really good mix of all the best players, younger, more experienced players on the island, and the ones that are available to us. It's been challenging, to say the least, I would say, with trying to get our training sessions to a level that we want, with personnel being unavailable. I know it's a really busy time with midweek fixtures now. We're coming to the light evenings, so midweek fixtures are playing a part in the attendances for training. But I have had to remind the players that this is an opportunity you've been given to represent your national team, whether you're from the Isle of Man or not. It's the highest level you're going to get, the highest honour, the highest privilege you're going to get on Manx football, and I really feel like I think there could be a bit more uptake on that from the players. I'm really trying to drill into them that be proud to have this opportunity, be proud to play for your national team. It's something that I've always really been proud of, really passionate about. So I'm trying to put that to the players, and it has been challenging. It's been a bit stop-start with the unavailability of players for training for different reasons. I understand people have busy lives and busy schedules, but we need to start trying to build up towards ultimately next year's Island Games, and then the bigger goal is the Island Games in 3 years' time. So we're giving players a really good opportunity. I'm giving lots of players opportunity, which you'll see on Saturday. We've got two really young lads under 18s that have been brought into the Island squad, which is I'm looking forward to seeing. It'll be a good opportunity for them and for opportunity for other people, because we've got such a huge amount of talented footballers on the island, whether they're the more experienced players or really young players. And I just really want to give everybody the opportunity. Myself, Matty, Rick, Frank, Jay, we've got a really good coaching squad, and we're prepared to put a lot of time and a lot of effort into bringing the national team back to what it was. So, if we can get that from the players, I'm sure we'll be looking strong for the future.
In terms of looking toward the future, I suppose in some ways looking back a little bit, of course, you took bronze at the Island Games in Orkney last year. You were going for gold. That didn't quite materialise. Were there any sort of conversations had afterwards, and then going towards the situation that we're in now, as to maybe what needs to be done to try and improve that situation going to the Faroe Islands next year, and indeed these friendly games which start this weekend?
The only conversations, firstly, the Island Games, we have 6 months build up into that. I brought in quite a lot of, I think it was 7 or 8 players that I knew and I'd played with and are experienced. Some had just finished with their FC Isle of Man careers, and some I'd brought in from that I'd played with for a long time, and I know how the mentality of those players and what I was going to get out of them. So it was nice to bring them in, and the goal was obviously gold medals, but we just didn't quite reach that goal. Just one poor performance in the week, and then you get knocked out, and that's tournament football for you. But most of the conversations around going forwards were based on the FC Isle of Man players, and I've had a lot of comments made about this, and I think with bringing those players in, although I have said to the players, and I fully agree, not all the best players play for FC Alaman because of different reasons, family commitments, work commitments. So it was to bring in a really good scutch of those players and to mix them in, get a really good mix of players, because I want those players available. And ultimately, they were really keen to join in the squad. And I just want the best players that are available to the Alaman national team to play. So it was based around that, because I think that a lot of people have come to me and said, oh, you shouldn't be playing for the Alaman national team if you're playing for FC Alaman. And my question to that would be, well, why not? They're local players playing for a local club side. You cannot start then discriminating against players because they choose to play for FC Alaman. This is the national team, and if they're available and if they're good enough, they'll be selected for it. And that was mainly the conversation we've had around going towards the Iron Games next year and the Iron Games in a couple of years' time over here in 2029. So yeah, we feel like we've got the balance right. We feel like we've got the best players available to us at the moment. The squad is ever changing, as you'll see Saturday. There's already been a change for Saturday due to different reasons. A few players have actually come to me and said that they can't continue with the commitments they've got elsewhere, which is absolutely fine. You know, it's disappointing, but you have to respect their decisions and respect their reasons, and there'll be opportunities for other people once we get going after Saturday again.
You sort of half answered what my next question was going to be with regards to FC Alaman players coming into the setup as well. You said you've had questions about it and you've answered it in your way, but on top of that as well, how do you explain that decision to bring in those players to other players within the squad who are not part of the FC Alaman setup but have been part of the national team setup for the last 12 to 18 months that may end up missing out because of the quality of players sometimes that, you know, that were in that FC Alaman squad that come in? How do you explain that to the players that may have to miss out on certain opportunities?
So I haven't had to explain too many of those players. I've had one or two conversations, and they've been really good, really understanding of the fact that this is the way that we're looking, this is the way I want to take it forward. You have to have the best possible players available for playing for your national team if you want to get results especially in Ireland Games tournament. I feel like we were really close last time. We can be stronger again. And the lads that have had to ask those questions have been really understanding of the situation. It's just a decision you have to make as a manager and as a coaching team. Which direction are we going to go? And it's not, the door's never closed to anybody. We've had those conversations. It's never closed. It's just at the moment in time, this is the way we're going to go. And these are the players that we've selected for now. But those players that came to the Ireland Games with us last time did a really good job. We got albeit not the best result we wanted, but we've got a good result out of it. So there is opportunities, or there will be in the future for those players again, if they continue to show me that they're good enough and they're willing to put the work in to come back into the squad. But firstly, I just feel like when you've got the opportunity, especially like this, for an Alaman national team, you just pick the best players that are available to you at the time. And those FC Alaman players are playing at a standard where you would argue it's higher than the Manx leagues, week in, week out. Not to say that they are all the best players, but there is a strong core of that team that will improve our national side. So I think they're understanding. The ones that have asked the question, they were really understanding of it. And it doesn't make my job easier, but we just appreciate the fact that they took those messages on board. So this is where we are, and this is how we're going to take it forward.
Looking ahead, really, obviously a lot of this is part of the, I suppose it's been called the Road to Gold campaign, if you like, going to the Faroe Islands in 2027. How important is it for you as a manager and for the players to get started, I suppose, this early down the line with the next Ireland Games just over a year away, to get yourself as prepped as possible for that campaign when it comes around?
Yeah, look, we have to. It was a question that when we came back from the Ireland Games, it was a question of myself and Matty and Rick if we wanted to continue. And at the time, I had to kind of have a think about it. And well, if we're going to continue, we need to be shown a willingness on both sides to improve the national team and to get fixtures back. Because, like you say, you've just touched on before, we haven't had a fixture since 2019. So there was nothing lined up. So it was a case of, well, let's bring this Isle of Man team back to the forefront of people's minds and at the top of where all the Manx players should want to play. So we've had discussions around that. There's so much work going on in the background, and the campaign of the Road to Gold I really like. There's a lot of work going on, and I have to thank all those people that are really pushing it. We've already got 4, possibly 5 fixtures lined up for this summer, which is great preparation, just especially for going into the next year. I can have a good look at players, and we can get working with them this summer. So we've got this game Saturday. I've organised a game with TNS on the 13th of June where we travel to them. They've just won the Welsh Premier League by quite a distance. And then they play in European qualifiers 2 weeks after they play us. So that's a really, really top fixture. And if we can open up these lines of communication and build these relationships with these clubs, then we can bring the national team back to playing some good fixtures. We've got a tournament organised for July, whereby it's working out that we have to play 2 games in one day on the 11th of July, which is fine because it's challenging, but we've got a squad big enough, and I believe that we can, if there's unavailability, there's other players on the island that we can bring in to look at for those fixtures, and then there's a potential to play against the schools team that go to California. So there's lots of fixtures, lots of work going on in the background, and hopefully Saturday will be the start of being able to drum up a bit more positivity about the Isle of Man national team, and hopefully we can get a main sponsor behind us, and it's always what you need, is the main sponsor and some funding, because it always comes down to money, unfortunately. But the idea of this Road to Gold is to entice someone to come and say, yeah, we'll support that, we like what you're doing and we like the look of it, let's strike up a deal if we can.
Thank you for having the stamina to make it to the end of the Manx Radio Sportscast. You're clearly someone who has their eye on the ball at all times. Want to hear more about the latest sporting news across the Isle of Man and much more? Then might I recommend you take the plunge and subscribe to this series or a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider, so that, in a flash, all of our finest moments take a winner's place on your smartphone. Thank you.